We're live. What's going on, world?
How y'all doing?
Hello, hello.
All right.
Like you need to take.
I know.
I know.
I know. I'm actually, when I'm done with this, I'm just going to throw it all that way. I'm Jonathan Polyp Saffer, and I'm a co-founder of M.I.N D, My Ideas Never Die, and founder of Talking Solutions. Today, we're talking solutions with a few wonderful people here on this panel. Before I get started, I just wanted to do a little shout out. We do have apparel. Oh, thank you. You have the wide angle shot. We got the apparel. We got T-shirts. Says "M.I.N.D. My Ideas Never Die." We've got this sweatsuit. T-shirts come in white and black. We got the sweatsuit with the sweatpants.
Tell them about the removable canvas.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we're not even there yet. Okay.
Got the sweatpants M.I.N.D. and the logo there. My Ideas Never Die on the backside. Got My Ideas Never Die on the backside here. We got the removable canvas, so that you can create art and put it on there. There we go.
Loving it.
I love that hoodie.
Loving it. Yup.
Yeah.
Loving it.
We got World Changers on the front. Little M.I.N.D. logo right at the center, the heart chakra. And fantastic. So thank you. I was literally just gonna throw it. But that's better.
Hey, Jake doing it.
All
Pop
right.
you a sweater.
So we're gonna kick this off by going around and everybody's gonna introduce themselves. You're gonna talk a little bit about what you do and your journey, and we'll go from there.
Am I starting?
Yeah, we'll have you
Everybody
Pop
start.
us
open, it
off.
wasn't
I know
me.
everybody
Everybody
said.
turns around.
Got it.
Wow.
Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone. I am Cori-Lucy Siméon-Ohiri. I am an event producer, and that's just a really, really large event planner. I do a lot of events from top to, not bottom, but more intimate. Festivals, openings, pop-up events. I work with a lot of agencies, and I work with a lot of private people as well who do weddings, who do conferences, everything, so the full spectrum. So I find wonderful talent, wonderful people to work with, and we produce wonderful events, and I've been doing this for over 15 years. I am originally from Boston, Massachusetts. I've lived in DC, and I've worked in London and West Coast and a lot of different places, and I'm really happy to be here to talk about the creative spaces and finding people who look like me in those spaces and bringing people on who want to be in those spaces, because I love it. It's fun. I grew up with a Haitian father and a Nigerian mother, so everything was a good time. And because I was in that space, I always love to bring happiness to people and celebrate and be around laughter and food and music. And so wonderful to be here with all of you.
What's your favorite dish from both sides?
Ooh, I'm a rice girl. You know that question, what's the one thing you can eat forever? I'm a rice girl.
I
love
can't
rice.
stop rice.
Jollof rice.
Rice. Okay, jollof rice. Everything. Yeah. My favorite is probably black rice, Jean Jean. And see, now we're gonna talk about food a lot, but the cuisine in Haiti is wonderful. So yeah. Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Cori-Lucy and I are actually working on something really cool. She just brought me on. Thank you to Jonathan connecting the dots. Wonderful connection and tribe we have. What's going on, everybody? My name is Matthew Wolterding. I am a multidisciplinary artist, creative director, and educator from Lowell, Massachusetts. I've been in the art space for about a decade now, founding a design house in 2016 and working on my own personal practice, artistic practice, that then kind of moved into working with clients and getting into creative direction and art direction for about the past 8 years as well. And I'm really excited because taking all of that experience that I've had kind of just in my own personal endeavors, I'm now coming to a space where I'm really looking to share this with my community and educate young folks in particular in my community just around the creative process, around project management, around growing a brand, around just self-advocating for yourself and finding your passions. So I'm really excited to talk a little bit about that today and just share a little bit of my journey, as I feel like it stands as a testament, that you can do it. So yeah, I'm really grateful to be here. Father, shout out my baby boy Jackson. I was just talking about you. I love you, man.
I'm Steve Dion. I'm a residential mortgage loan officer for Eastern Bank. I was born and raised in Massachusetts. I've been in the mortgage industry for about 30 years. And right now I've been with Eastern Bank for about 15 years. And we offer, we're one of the largest lenders for first-time homebuyers, but we also service our clients on the looking for their second dream home. And so we can handle pretty much anything that any client needs as far as residential lending, up to $7 million. And I will leave it over to Ayesha.
All right.
I was like, okay.
Nice. Okay.
Just to know the numbers.
Well, hello, everyone. I am Ayesha Wilson. I am a city councilor here in Cambridge. I grew up in Cambridge. I was born in New Jersey, but I grew up here in Cambridge, so Cambridge is home. And I have been on the school committee for 4 years prior to coming to the council just this past term. So the start of the term was on New Year's Day. I'm a youth worker. I'm a social worker. So young people are my everything. I am a mom to a toddler who's 20 years old, my little boss baby. And I'm just really grateful of the work that I have been able to do on the school committee, like bring in, advocate for more social workers. That brought in 12 additional social workers in our public schools, but just amongst many other things, looking at racial equity, looking at curriculum, equity through curriculum, looking at things from a racial justice lens and making sure that we are doing things intentionally that can meet the needs of those most marginalized so that they have their needs met to be successful, especially, as young people in our communities, but globally, really.
Wonderful.
And so on the city council, there's a lot of things that I am looking into and wanting to work on. One policy order that I just recently passed really had to do with looking at our disparity study that had to do with contracts. So over $260 million out of contracts that were given over a couple of years, only 60,000 of those dollars went to Black vendors. And so that's a huge problem in our city and something that we need to dive deeper into and figure out how do we correct that. So that's my task. And again, young people is my jam, and I'm all about just doing great work. So look forward to the conversation.
Wonderful. Jonathan, you put together a great panelist.
Yes.
Great panel.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so obviously the future of education is a very important topic. So there's a lot of things that are changing with education, with artificial intelligence coming out, and with the pandemic and people learning from home. And then now there's, this mixed learning. And I know that Finland has like a different way of doing the education system. So I'm really curious what you guys think about basically how the education system could change to better support kids for the future, as well as any ideas that you guys have about how kids can get involved, how the youth can get involved in their in the programs that are getting taught in the schools, how they can have their voices heard, and if there's any forums that you know of for that.
Man, I would love to jump that off because I'm actually working on an amazing program right now to answer that call, brother. As I mentioned, kind of taking my years of social work, I was also a social worker for quite some time, art and just community work in general. I've got to experience a lot of different spaces, right? And youth is a big big piece. It's a big part of my world and my purpose. And I spent a lot of times in the schools and just connecting with kids, from being a social worker to running poetry classes and kind of everything in between. And what I have found is that we just need something new. And I'm going to say that pretty broadly. And I just feel like the education process and system has not changed much, even since when I was a kid looking back, and I could even imagine before that. And these kids are changing. Things are changing.
100%.
They got different interests. They have different learning styles. Let's not even mention the pandemic. Like, don't even put the pandemic in that. I mean, that was a whole nother chapter. But just listening, and I took years of just listening and asking what these kids need and paying attention to what they're interested in. They want to be sneaker designers. They want to be musicians. They want to be the president. I remember talking to this kid. He said, "Man, I'm going to be the president." So, like, how do we then serve them? That's what it is. We're serving them to empower them, because that sentiment that they're the future. They are the future. That is our future president. That's your future doctor. That's your future loan officer, teacher. Please name it. That is the future. So how can we equip them and furthermore empower them to just really find what they're passionate about and allow that to lead? So I'm working on this really wonderful program called My Beautiful Mind. And the whole purpose of this program is to empower young folks to explore themselves and to find out, what are you really interested in, and what like makes you excited. And there's something out there that you're going to be able to do to then serve the community with that passion. And that's my goal, because I know how good it feels to do what you love. And that's when you're really most effective, and you're really talking about world changers, and when you're really doing things that you love. So for me, my approach right now, and we just got our first contract with the Lowell Public Schools, which is wonderful. Shout out to Lowell Public Schools really diving in on this and taking a chance, because they just recognize that these kids just need something more, and we need to speak their language. And I think that's really powerful. And I'm from Lowell. I was born there. Bringing in educators and folks that are from the city, and really just being able to relate to those folks. So I'm really excited to get this off the ground. We start next month, and it's just going to be a really beautiful thing. And I think if we can reach them on that level, if we can come down to their level and really talk to them about what they love and what they're empowered on, we're going to see a beautiful future. And I really believe that.
I definitely want to echo that. I think
Yeah,
definitely
please.
meeting our young people where they are is key.
100%.
And what we're not doing a really great job is so, like what you talked about, our young our young people are interested in things that 20 years ago that may not have been the interest, right? A lot of families were like, you need to be a lawyer, a doctor, and all that kind of stuff. And now it's like entrepreneurs, sneaker designers, like going straight into business and doing things for themselves is really the key for them. Finding what their passion truly is and kind of honing in on that. So they need to see adults that are doing that kind of thing.
Yes. Mm.
30% of our Black children can read efficiently by compared to 70-80% of their. That's a huge gap. When we think about that, when they then matriculate through the school system and then they're about to graduate, how many of our kids are prepared to really tackle
Feeling less
the
confident.
real world?
Yeah.
Get out
That's a
there,
problem.
know how to read a contract.
Yeah.
Or be a business owner, know how to make sure that everything's lined up for them. A bank, right? And ask for a loan. But if they can't really read it, but I would say in terms of empowering more actively involved, is an abundance of resources. Thank you. I thought that was a problem. Cambridge has an abundance of resources from clubs to nonprofits out here. There's so much for our young people to get into. And, you know, I often say if there's not a club, say at our high school where there's over 80 clubs, if there's not a club of your interest right now, create it. Find a group of your
Amen.
friends, get an
Yes.
advisor, and create your own club. But there's so much opportunity here in this kind of city where, you know, maybe in other cities like Lowell may have some, Boston has a lot. You know, it's getting bigger and bigger and better, but young people just need to take advantage of the resources that are at their fingertips.
Yeah, I think one of the things to tap into is, so I'm going to even take it further, right? So as you keep going, people tell you, go find the resources, but they don't know where to start. That's where it really just starts. We can tell somebody like, just start it. The first question is how, you know? And so we have to tap into that place as well of teaching them those steps so that they feel more confident and more comfortable to find those places. We can tell them to start a club at your school and they're gonna be like, how do I do that? And it's going to a teacher, going to an advisor, going to the office, saying something and creating those spaces. And I just wanted to echo what everyone I think is agreeing on this call, on this panel is this creative space, it's not standard anymore. So I remember being in school, all those standardized tests, all of the same tests, but I wasn't tapping into the creative side of me and the things that I really actually wanted to do. And so I think in the school system is tapping into how do we get more electives? How do we actually have more trades? How do we actually have these spaces where people can actually, where students can actually tap into the space they actually want to be in, you know, and have them start there is something that I think we're all trying to get to. So just exactly.
I agree with everything everybody has said here. The banker in me thinks it's super, super important to have financial literacy in school. I'm actually shocked that kids can graduate from high school without knowing how to manage a credit card or a checking account. And I feel like if they have the
Unbelievable.
financial literacy, that's going to take one stress off of their life because they're going to, without that, they're going to be super stressed out about how to navigate the financial part of their success. That being said, I think as early as possible, try to encourage their passions and just make sure they have self-confidence. You know, it's very easy for children, especially now with social media. It's very easy for them to feel, you know, their self-esteem can be truly affected. So as parents and adults, I feel like it's super, super important to really, really embrace their self-confidence and make sure they have that every step of the way.
What do you think about so the financial literacy part? One of my best friends in New York, she goes into a school once or twice a week just to teach financial literacy. And so if schools were able to tap into finding those people who are creating those curriculums to add to what's going on, I think I think it would be a major benefit.
I think banks should be very involved with that. Banks should be going to the schools and offering those services. I've been very vocal about that within my bank, and I think it's a really important tool. I've done it through colleges and the schools within the Eastern Bank footprint, but I just think it's one of those priceless values that you can give students to just, you know, even for them just to have a Q&A.
There's a lot of curiosity there. Our young people want to be rich and famous very quickly, but if they don't know how to manage their dollars, they can lose it, right? And it could just be spent on just really, you know,
Clothes and cars.
yeah. Right, just things that really don't matter. So it is important that they're tapped in, but it also, for young people to be tapped in, that means that the adults around them need to be tapped in. So how are we giving all this information to their families and those trusted adults in their lives and all that? We need to think about the community being rich in this knowledge of information, so that it feels like a trickle down, but it's like a wraparound kind of service.
Correct. Because the community, I was just gonna say, and I'm sure you could, you know, touch on this from a social worker lens. You know, the community, there has to be a support. There has to be a wraparound because there's so many aspects. Going back to the confidence, right? I was gonna say, man, I wanted to jump out of my, because that's like the first. That's the first thing before passion, before knowledge, before this, before that. Just really building confidence in these young folks and just saying, like, I see you. Hello, great shirt on today. You know what I mean? Love what you did with your hair. You know, like these small compliments, these small things that Yeah, yeah. It really goes a long way. And then to your point about, a goal of mine through this My Beautiful Mind program is, how to basically they're going to have some fun things to do that they could bring home with their family and create an art piece. So, and I know everybody doesn't have that opportunity, but we got to just continue to create those opportunities for the community to get together. Because once the community feels empowered, then we start empowering our young folks and the seeds, and that's really big.
Word up.
Awesome. Appreciate all your guys' insights on this. Definitely love the conversation. I feel like, like financial literacy and also like showing kids like how to find the resources they need is so important. So like, how would you suggest, and, I know, everyone has different experience in this. So I'm curious, and I'd like to start with Cori-Lucy about how do you curate environments to foster building communities that share your vision, support your growth?
That's a great question, Jonathan. If I have an interest, I look for it and I attend. I'm good at going to places by myself. I'm an event planner, so there's different types of events that I like to do and what I can do. And so I try to put myself in those places. If I like music, I'm going to concerts. If I like anything about education, I'm going to those conferences. So for me, what I did was I found those things that I was interested in, and I went to those places. And then you meet people as well who are interested in those things, and you network, you connect. We're connected because, I asked you a question. I knew that you were in a space, and I knew that you knew somebody. And so it's really putting yourself in those places to meet those people, because it's not always your friends and your family and your cousins who have the same interest as you. And so you might feel alone. You might feel like what I'm doing doesn't make sense, like no one else is doing it, so I don't know what to do. So if you feel a little bit different, you actually have to go out and put yourself in those places to find those people. If you like to dance, but nobody else around you dances, you need to go to find a studio, go outside who's dancing. You have to find your tribe, because the people who I work with aren't my family, my friends. They're people I met throughout the years from the different things that I've done. And so it's not always going to be around you. And so that's what I tell people is just, if you like something, go and you'll find your people, and that's how you'll connect. That's been one of the best things for me, is just putting myself in places with the type of people I want to work with. And then we connect, and we find each other, and we make it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. How about you?
Oh man, I gotta echo that. That's big. That's a big takeaway. Finding your tribe, big takeaway, because at the future, the present, it's all collaborative. It's all collaborative, and there's so many wonderful, talented folks in the world. So definitely finding folks to empower and be empowered is really important. For me, I think the arts, being an artist, one of my greatest honors of being an artist is being able to create emotions and feelings and experiences through art, because art is just so subjective and objective, you know what I mean? And for everyone it's something different. So as a artist and creative director who has curated spaces not only for myself but for others, I really appreciate being able to utilize art to evoke an emotion and an experience. And those two things are really, really important for me. Anything that I'm a part of, I like for people to walk away and say that they felt something. And when we feel something, that's when things can start moving in us and ideas can start flowing. And I just really believe that inspired people inspire people, and that's huge. That's huge. So I really always try to go in a space with the thought that I'm going to light it up, and I want other people to be lit up. And again, just being able to use art as that vehicle has been a huge blessing for me. So, yeah.
Awesome. I love that.
I would say a lot of it starts with the parents and mentors, just paying attention to children and students, and, having that life experience to be able to identify things that you might see in them that might spark some interest in something that, like, if they like pets, maybe help, bring them to a zoo or a pet store, and just finding those things that they are interested in. And as an older person, you probably have some more insight on ways for them to make some personal connections. I think right now, with the technology we have, there's so much going on with social media, and people are so comfortable doing things remotely. I think trying to get together in person, like Corey said, any kind of personal connections, I think those are probably the most valuable and have the most possibilities for actually lasting the test of time.
Yeah, and I think to just add on to this, I mean, this is really beautiful, right? It's really about thinking about how do we meet our young people where they're at? How do we show a lot of empathy and think about what are the next steps for them? Typically, it's networking, right? Like these young people don't know maybe the language of what they're trying to do or how they're going to get there, but ultimately through building a network, it's going to like open up so many doors. So having one connection, like if a young person comes to me and I'm not like the beautiful artistic person, but guess what? I can maybe connect them to a friend who is, right? And from that connection right there, hopefully that blossoms into something big for them. There's a lot of young people that have come around me who have often said, like, Miss Ayesha, I have this great idea and I don't really know how to launch it. And it's like, okay, well, let's just sit. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out who in our community could we tap you into and how can we go from there. So I think just meeting young people where they're at, really thinking about, for me, it was always having this open door kind of policy space where it's like, yo, come through, ask any question you have. I would never turn a kid away who has just a question or a bright idea. But also just meeting them with empathy and giving grace, because like you may not know the answers, but guess what? I have a network of people too, so I can just tap in. And so just really showing them that connections do matter and that through that they can kind of get to the place where they want to be.
Awesome. So I hear going out and finding your community, creating community through art, listening to kids and being a support for them and helping them find those connections that are going to last in a lifetime. And my mind's blanking now. Everything that you just said.
Ayesha summed us up.
Yeah, sorry, I was up and about opening
It's all
doors. It's hard doing all these things all at once.
Yes, you're doing a bunch of things, but you got this.
I really like, Steve, what you said about how parents also have to be involved in witnessing and recognizing what the youth around them is interested in, because I think that helps a lot. Because I don't put emotions on people. Like I don't call people shy, because I think that hinders them. I think that puts it in their head and then they're quiet. But if there are adults around you asking you questions, because sometimes it's hard for students to ask, but asking like, oh, what did you do this? And just like, just like Matthew said about, oh, I like your shirt, I like your hair, and it sparks them. And I think that some students need that, someone to just witness them in a little bit for them to get to where they want to get to.
It really does start with curiosity.
Yeah.
You have to just be curious. Ask young people what drives them, what makes them excited, what makes them really happy. And most of the time, it may not be anything that's going on in school. It could be a lot of things that's happening outside of school. They participate in a dance class, so they went to some painting activity thing, and then from there, it's like, whoa, there's something that I enjoy. Something in the STEM field, like, hey, they went to a lab and they were able to see some things blow up or what have you. There's a lot of excitement in young people, but if you don't ask questions, if you don't like get curious with them, they're never going to share. And that's also building relationships. But I think going back to our families, right? It takes the village. And so you have to ask the questions not only of the young person, but also of the families around them, the community around them. What drives you? What makes you, what makes you feel good? Do you like cooking at home? How can we cook together and bring, folks to the table and break bread? And like love is in all of that too.
I like that. Yeah, I like the idea of focusing on building community and bringing people together and fostering that whole like neighborhood feel. And so with that in mind, what are some ways that you think that the youth today can participate in the local? I know. Well, this is actually, it's not exactly, neighborhood and village making, but it is political.
Yes.
Because that's important as well. And I guess that, well, I mean, that's the same thing. It's like you build community, and that in its sense. Well, to take it back a step, because like when people talk about politics, it's kind of like this abstract, separate thing. But really, what you're talking about, building a community and connecting on things that people are passionate about, that's essentially what politics is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, really, politics bills come from just a great idea. It comes from an idea that you think is great. And then you try to figure out people that also think it's great. And then you turn to the people who in leadership and in power to convince them that this is great to make it a bill or a law or what have you.
So how do you feel like the youth can get started with that and start engaging with their local community, the local politicians, and is there a path that you see for them to having an impact on national on like the national political level, the international political level, like things happening overseas and stuff like that? Like, what would you recommend that the youth do to get their voices heard and to build those support systems around them that will make them feel like they're having an impact?
Well, I do think that we're seeing it firsthand right now with a lot of, college, universities, young people are gathering together, even on high school campuses. Young people are gathering together around things that are really important with them, that are global issues, right? And through that, they're like, listen, we want to stand for change. We want to show support and solidarity. And they just figure out, hey, we're like-minded people. We are coming together on this issue that really does matter to us, but we want to figure out how do we create change. And in a small city or town, maybe sometimes you're like, is our reach going to be as far as we think it'll be? Well, yeah, because people are watching. And if you then engage your local officials in the conversation, like, for example, even the policy order that we supported around the Gaza-Israeli war, right? Like, so even with that, as a public official, I co-sponsored the thing that says we support a ceasefire, right? And that was very controversial, I might say, but it was something that was important to say we stand for peace and we stand in solidarity around peace. But I think our young people, they just need to be in a position where they have, every neighborhood has like a neighborhood group. And if they can join those neighborhood groups and just be in those spaces to hear what are the issues within my community that do matter. Maybe it's more adult focused, but when they think about the youth voice and bringing that to the table, it really, really matters. And going back to clubs and starting clubs, again, going to what you're passionate about. We have the Cambridge Youth Council, which is a group of young people who are passionate about a variety of different things. And they have actually created law because of a lot of their passion. One has been making sure all the students have a free M7 bus pass, right? And that's something that was critically important. And they saw that as an equity issue. And so they were like, this is wrong. We need to raise awareness and we need to do something about it. And we did, right? And so I think young people, I'm all about youth voice. And I think that when young people, Ayanna Pressley said it best, those closest to the pain should be closest to the power. And so as we give them the tools to really think about how they not only identify the issues that they have before them, but tap into the people who can make some change and difference, that's all it is. It's just finding your outlets. I feel like you're on a basketball court, right? And you're like, outlet, like who's gonna be the person that's now gonna take that ball that you're dribbling up the court to get it to the hoop, right? For all y'all basketball heads out there, that's my little bit for you. But I think there's a lot of work that we can do around that, engaging our young people, neighborhood groups. Come talk to us, elected officials. Like, my door is open, right? And I have an office at City Hall, and I think that it is important. And if you can't reach me, you can reach my aide, Jake. He's super, cool, and he's always down to be helpful. And so I think it's just identifying who you can rock with, like who you might be able to build a connection with. And it doesn't hurt the fact that I'm a Black woman, right? And that young Black girls will feel like, or Black boys will feel like they can actually identify and see themselves in someone like me.
Awesome. Thank you.
I would say if it's trying to get children into, political arena as far as just being aware. I think like there's Saturday morning shows that like are they have children as the news anchor, and I think that's a healthy, a safe way for them to get a little bit of like current politics and current news without being intimidating or scary to them, because obviously the news at night is super graphic. But I'd say those are a good way, and then like even something like for local politics, I know Channel 5 has a program on the weekends, On the Record, that has local politicians speaking about local issues that they probably could identify with, and I think that's probably like a more benign way to expose politics to them in local legislation without it being too overwhelming. So that's probably, if I was a parent, that's probably where I would want to start, just to get a taste of how interested they are and what kind of questions they ask if they do watch a half-hour show.
Awesome. Thanks.
I wanted to bring another perspective into this, because I actually been talking about this pretty recently. I think that politics, especially like global politics, wars, and things like that, it can be very overwhelming for adults, let alone we're talking about young people. And I'm hearing that from them, like I'm not even sure what to do, and my suggestion, and it's not about don't get involved, because like we have to get involved, right? You can't complain about something and not get involved in it. But at the same time, I just want to just say to young folks, like, take a break from social media, take a break from news, take a break from watching all of these horrible photos that you're seeing. Take a break, and if you are feeling inspired to make some change in the world, start in your community. Start really small. Start really, really small. Go big if you feel like you want to go big. Go big. But for the rest of the folks that may not know how to do it or where to go, start small, and go to your local city hall. Speak to folks. All the offices are open. You could go talk to anyone. Public spaces. You know what I mean? If you have an idea, I work. I just took on a position of executive director for a small nonprofit in Lowell called Do It Yourself Lowell. Shout out DIY. And their whole thing is just to empower community members to do small scale projects, right? Like civic engagement. And what they have seen, they've been going now for 8 years, going on 10, actually, 2025 will be 10. What they have seen is just those small scale projects have had such an impact and ripple effect for folks to do bigger projects. So definitely when I'm speaking to young folks, my approach is more so like really like take a break. Like if you're feeling super overwhelmed and like you're just feeling like, because I know how I feel. I'm not even on social media. I can't because it's just too much for me. So for me, and I remember asking my mom. I remember when there was just like a lot of issues going on, and my father, he's Black and my mother's white, and just talking to my mom, because my dad was not around at this time, but talking to my mom just about being a young man of color, and I'm seeing these young folks getting shot on TV, and I'm just thinking to myself, oh my God, I can imagine how these young boys, young girls are feeling. What are they looking at? I said, yo, Mom, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know to go to a march. I don't know if I got to put a post on social media. I don't know. And my mom simply just said to me, lead by example in your community, Matthew. That's it. And those words like stuck so heavily with me, because there's so much you could do digitally, but really just like start in your community. Like that's my big like message. Like take a break, take a setback, and then start in your community. And trust me, you're going to start to see and meet other folks who are passionate It may bring you onto something bigger to get you to help out with a war going on thousands of miles away. And it's so unfortunate that that's happening. But really, young folks, like, do not carry that on your shoulders. You know what I mean? Do not carry that on your shoulders. And by you showing up in your community and going to school every day and picking up that piece of trash on the floor in your community, that is changing the world. So again, take a break if you need it. Start small, get involved in your community, and get involved in these public spaces.
Powerful.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. So, yeah, there you go. There's different ways of getting involved. If you're sitting there at home, you're like, I don't know what to do. You just got a lot of great advice right there. So there's plenty that you can do. And, you know, like Matthew said, like, if you're really stressed out, just turn it all off. Take a break. I heard somewhere, like, the amount of, like, stuff that we see these days, like, the human mind is not designed to, like, constantly take in all that stuff. And I'm like, all right, I could see that. But I guess, like, but if you look back in the day, you know, I guess, like, we were always seeing terrible things at some point when we were a very primitive species. So, yeah, either way.
You know, I think we just didn't have it at our fingertips, right? Where it was
Right,
just
yeah,
so
yeah.
readily accessible. Like, yes, we all have phones very close by to us, but we can flip that phone open and boom, go to any social media website and we're tapped in. Whereas, you know, back in the day before our cell phones even came about, one, they were like analog. They weren't smartphones, so you couldn't get to the internet that quickly to know what was happening. You had to wait until you got home to really get the news, if you would. And if your parents were tapped in or all that kind of stuff, that's really where the news came about and how you would learn what's going on globally, but or even locally. But I think it's just it's now, again, it's at your fingertips, so that it means young people can be transitioning from one class to the next, and boom, there could be a whole, you know, school shooting or something that's just horrific, terrifying that's going on, whether it's in your community or not, and that you're like, this is a problem and we need to create change.
Right, yeah, because instead of just seeing the issues in your local community, you're seeing them in every community all at the same time, all at once.
And the worst of the worst, because right, that's what the news. You know, I don't want to be a news hater, but you know what I mean. I mean, that pain sells, right? Like, pain sells, and unfortunately, that's what's going on. So again, like, to your point, like, kids are getting out of a class, looking at their phone. A hospital just got bombed, and they just turn it off and go to another class. Like that. This is not normal. This is not normal.
Or
You know
there
what I
was
mean?
just a fight in their school and somebody filmed it, and then boom, that gets passed around the whole entire school before the class period even ends, right? And so there's that there's a lot of realities that our young people are experiencing day in and day out that it has to be overwhelming. I couldn't imagine being a high schooler today because there would just be so much going on. Our minds would be going in a number of different places all at the same damn time. How can I focus on a math problem? How can I focus in science? How can I focus on, you know, the SAT prep or whatever I need to do? How can I focus on getting college essays out? You know, it would be overwhelming. So I definitely see where our young people are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a mixed bag because on one hand, now we're all very well aware of issues, of all the issues, all at once. But on the other side, it's like we're being bombarded. So I think it's about trying to figure out how to get that balance of taking in the information, being aware of like what's wrong, and then taking some time to shut it all out and to reflect and to then, you know, make your moves from there.
And I just want to say, you got to give yourself grace. Even as adults, we
Grace,
do this
grace.
all day long, right?
Yep.
Like, there's not a moment when I can't go on IG and I might just hit somebody's scroll and then I flick to the next, and all of a sudden I'm 30 minutes, an hour in, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. So, yes, give yourself grace. It happens. It is what it is. But guess what? When you learn sooner to kind of take those breaks and those pauses, it'll get easier as you enter into adulthood. Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Got to do the work. You got to do the work. Got to do the self work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that um, that if we teach the youth now about how to have that, the discipline, exactly, that it'll serve them better as they get older. So the next topic that we're going to talk about is home ownership.
Tap in, tap in.
Yeah.
Stephen, we're here for
Where
you.
the money is.
Yeah, we're here for
7
you.
million.
We're here for you. 7 million. Sign me up. We're here for you, Stephen. Does your income actually have to be in a place to qualify for a $7 million loan? Clearly.
Yeah.
Jonathan, we have
ain't
more
there.
questions for Stephen than you probably.
But no, it's a great, I loved it because this is, to your point, kids need to know about this, right? Like, how can you plan sooner than later to figure out how to get that home and get that piece of land? Yeah, jump in.
Give us the tips.
Start with step one.
What I will say is that it's probably much more accessible than people might realize. About 3 years ago, my niece had said to me, asked me the same question, what do I need to do to get a house? And I had said to her, I knew she was saving up, but she didn't really know what to do. And I said, let's fill out an application. Let's see where you are. She's like, no, my credit's not really where I want it to be, and I don't have enough saved up, so I'm going to hold off. I'm like, let's take a look at the whole picture. Let's see where you are. Let's see how far away you are. And within 6 months of that conversation, she was in her new home. So she had bought a home in Abington. She did a lot of research as a mom, and between what she had saved up, what she got for down payment assistance, and then what she got as a gift from her uncle, she was able to buy her first home. And not only
The uncle? Hey,
but
Uncle Steve, are you taking any?
But not only did she buy her first home, she saved $150 a month from what she was paying in rent. So she lived in a third floor apartment in Bridgewater, and her cost of home ownership went down by $150 a month because she was able to get a reduced rate. Her mortgage rate is 2.375% on a 30-year fixed. She put down about 8% of the purchase price. She has no private mortgage insurance, and like I said, she's saving money from what she was paying. And she'll send me a picture of the boys playing in the backyard. She's like, I just am so grateful. So, so that being said, I was talking to the people on the panel earlier, and there's a tremendous amount of programs here throughout Massachusetts and Greater Boston, especially, that offers down payment assistance. So, right now, today, there's a program called Stash that will give you $40,000 towards your down payment, and then if you're buying in Boston, in addition to that $40,000 from Stash, you can get another 5% of the purchase price to cover your towards your down payment, and then they'll also give you probably up to 2% to cover your closing costs. So they'll help you with the down payment plus the closing costs. So as long as you can come up with at least 1.5% of the purchase price out of your own pocket, so in a $500,000 home, that would be like $4,500. If you have got that, you can get into a home, and you'll also get a reduced interest rate from what's currently out there. So as far as children like in high school or looking at down the road, thinking part of their goal is to own their own home, I would say one thing is just talk to your parents, take a look at their current mortgage statement, see what it looks like, see what what it's like to write a check every month for that mortgage, because you're going to pay back the principal and interest each month. It's going to be part of your mortgage payment. Part of your mortgage payment will include real estate taxes to the town or city that you're living in, and it's also going to include the insurance to insure the home that you're in. So that's pretty much going to be most of your mortgage payments. Sometimes you'll have another component of insurance called private mortgage insurance, but get a taste for what that mortgage payment looks like. I mean, parents are probably going to have a much lower payment than people nowadays just because real estate prices are so high. But if you get a taste for it, and I would say the best thing you can do for yourself is to get some kind of a credit card opened as soon as you can. Once you're 18, get a credit card, because the longer you have credit established, the better your credit score is going to be. So even if you just got a $500 credit line and just pay it off every month, that's a great way to get your credit started, because if you get good credit, I say to my nieces and nephews all the time, as long as your credit's good, you can have options. If you don't have good credit, you're not going to have options. So get your credit started and keep it strong as long as you can. And then from there, just try to save, if you can just, even if it's $25 a week out of a paycheck, put into a dedicated account just to buy a home. And you can use that towards your down payment, or if you're able to take advantage of some down payment assistance programs, maybe you don't need that cash to buy the house, but maybe you need it to get some furniture in the house or to fix it up the way you want. So I would say the best thing you can do for yourself is establish your credit as quickly as you can. Keep it strong, obviously, making sure you're making your payments on time, and just try to use your credit conservatively to build that credit. And just try to continue saving up for that. And also, don't ever be discouraged and feel like you can't, start looking for a home. Talk to a loan officer at a local bank and find out what they have available, and let them look at your options, and they'll tell you, you know what, right now you're not ready to quite buy, but listen, once you have, your salary is up to this amount, you'll be in good shape. Or once you pay off this credit card, you'll be in good shape. Or once you save up, another $5,000, you'll be in good shape. But it's probably more accessible than most people would realize.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can we all jump in on? I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Something I was thinking about, and I did this for my godson. It's added him as an authorized user on my credit card when he was about 16. He'll be 22 in April. And so can you just speak, and I never gave him the credit card. I don't even know if he knows this. Takai, you're welcome. But how can you just talk to our audience about just like, what does that look like as being an authorized user, how that can really help and support young people so that when they hit 18 or even beyond, they just are starting off in a good place, keeping in mind that the person that's adding them isn't already in a good place, right?
It's a really, really great way to get the credit started for them. I didn't know you could put someone as an authorized user at 16. I always had it in my head that it was 18, but if you could do it at 16, like I said, the longer you have credit established on your credit report, the stronger your credit is going to be, because even if you have a credit card for 6 months and make all the payments on time, you're not going to have a great credit score because you haven't had it long enough. So when part of your credit score being established is length of time you've had credit. So that's going to be picked up. So yeah, that's a really great idea, and it makes sense to add someone as an authorized user if you have a credit card that you don't use much and you keep your balance low, and you add them as an authorized user. That's going to look really good on their credit report. Absolutely.
I love that idea of having the youth sit down next to their parents and watch them pay. Because I remember being really curious at a certain age, just wondering, what bank do you go to? Like, what does it really look like? How are you keeping this roof here? Just because out of interest. And I think that it taps against everything you keep talking about is the community. But sitting next to your parents as they're paying for something and just seeing, I think it makes you feel more comfortable.
Absolutely. I mean, people don't walk in the bank anymore. I mean, the banks, everyone, you can do everything remotely. But I would say for parents to make sure the kids realize what it is, what it's happening as far as trying to make sure that, like, you can cover that mortgage payment each month, and also be mindful when a big expense comes up. Home ownership is more than paying the mortgage. It does cost a lot to maintain a property. If you're not a handy person yourself, you pretty much have to hire somebody for everything, and it's not just a question of hiring somebody. You've got to hire someone that knows what they're doing, and do some little background before you just say to somebody, come and fix my kitchen sink. You want to make sure that somebody is reputable, and that you're paying a fair price for that.
The other piece I just wanted to add on to this was the part around generational wealth, right? And really building that. And I just think about the Black and brown community and just how not so tapped in, many people are around those conversations. One thing you did say is, like, as you're writing your mortgage checks out, what if we just are renters, right? And we're
just
not.
Gonna say, yeah. What about the families that they don't have anyone that owns a house?
Right.
So like,
Yep.
So what are even the pathways to home ownership? Like, how do our young people who don't have those connections even get started? If you have any ideas.
I would say to always just go to your local bank. Don't go to like, don't go to this online bank that's out in Wisconsin that they're what they call a correspondent lender. Go to a local bank. A local community bank is going to be your best bet. And I can tell you that the programs that are out right now are designed to help all communities. So that's what the purpose of the down payment assistance is for. That down payment assistance is a grant, though you don't have to pay that back. So as long as you keep your home for 5 years or more, that $40,000 that you got, that's yours, and that's part of that's where your wealth comes from. Because my niece bought her house within a year between what she had for down payment assistance, what the market did. She had $100,000 in equity within a year. So if you get on a $500,000 property, if you get $40,000 from Stash, you get another $20,000 from the city of Boston. That's $60,000, and it's not unusual in this market for a house to go up, 5% a year. So it's not unusual. You could buy a $500,000 home right today, and then next year that house will be worth $600,000. The other piece, aside from the down payment assistance, they've reduced our credit scores, so it's gone down to 640. So as long as your credit score is 640 and above, you're going to be able to take advantage of the best programs out there. So I think cumulatively you have those options that I think are really opening the doors to home ownership. Like I said, the biggest piece is just, I think there's just a big misconception that you have to have like an 800 credit score and 20% down on a home and a lot of money in the bank after you close. And there's a lot of tools to help people. There's a lot, and it's just a lot. It's just the banks have not been very good about letting people know about it. It's all boils down to communication. So
That was very strategic to make sure that it was keeping some people out of that opportunity to build, right? The equity and build that legacy of home ownership. Get to that place, would you say?
I don't know I wouldn't say it's just strategic. I mean, as far as banks promoting it, I'm not sure, because I know some banks limit it. Some banks will limit it. Some banks will say, you know what, because the banks have to commit to these loans, and they're what they call the loans themselves are not. They're below market interest rates, so the banks don't make as much money on them. So some banks will say, you know what, we're only going to commit to $5 million a year of these loans. Eastern Bank has no limit. So whoever comes to our door that wants that program, we're going to do the loan. But I do know some of the lenders will cap it. So I can only speak for Eastern Bank as far as that piece of it goes. But I think the most important thing is just, I would always just say, go to your local bank and find out what they have, and you'll find out that there's options. And try to work with someone that knows what they're doing, that's experienced.
I like that. And if I can just add another thing, is for young people today is really identifying your needs versus your wants. And that's hard for adults today, because I sure do want a whole lot of things, but I don't need it. And so really identifying your needs versus your wants is probably a good thing. And looking at your budget and seeing what you can carve off and save at the end of the week or the end of the month, so that you're adding to your home ownership fund, if you will.
And saving regardless, whether it's for a
That
home or for
part.
something, just
Rainy
saving.
day.
Yeah, just saving.
Right. And to that, lenders by law cannot give you a mortgage if it's going to create a financial hardship for you. So by law, lenders have to qualify you based on your verifiable income and verifiable debt. And lenders, so the days of getting a loan where we don't have to verify your income or your debt are gone. So by law, since 2010, you don't have to worry about getting a mortgage you can't handle, because a lender is going to qualify you based on what they verify.
Thank you.
Awesome. So there you have it. Some processes you can get started with right now. You got to save money. Start saving. Save just to save. Save as much as you can. And when you mentioned, getting a credit card, starting paying credit card, I've noticed a lot of people, they get credit cards and they're just like swiping them, and then they just forget that it exists. So one of the things I recommend is if you get a credit card, don't do that. Don't
do that
all the time. Just use it for whatever you were buying with a debit card. Just switch those over, and always make sure you're paying it off every month. because it's really dangerous. It's dangerous to do that.
To add to that, the average credit card is designed, if you go by the minimum payment due, is designed to be paid off in 30 years, which is about the same time as a home. So that's why you should just try to get in the habit of paying the entire balance off each month, or at least just try to pay as much as you can, because if the bank has its way, you will still be paying for that when you retire.
Unbelievable. See how they get you?
I know for like a credit card, one of the things when I started off with a credit card was just using it for specific things. Like maybe it's just for gas or maybe it's just for flights, but it wasn't for everything. To start off, getting comfortable, understanding how I pay back that money when I get my money to pay it back. So I started off really small, so that helped me like build understanding how to use that credit card and what payments look like, and just getting comfortable.
I like that. Yeah, when I first had a credit card, I just was buying it. I think my first credit card was a Best Buy credit card.
I think mine was too.
Yeah, because you can get reward points.
Yeah, they had great deals.
Yeah,
I want a laptop. Yeah, take it.
Yeah,
that's how I got me a laptop. Man, I thought I was on the top of the world. Yeah, I fell into the trap, y'all.
We fell, yeah, guilty. But we clean now, right? We get there.
We're getting there.
Yeah,
it takes time, y'all.
The 0% financing for 12 months. You're like,
I
gotta pay this off for 12 months.
That's the hook.
They contact you the night before it's due, and you're like, oh my gosh.
They actually don't contact you. You have to plug it in your own phone, like, because if not, you see that interest rate, like, whoa, where did this $400 extra come from? What?
Yeah, you log in. There's all these like exclamation points. You're like, uh-oh, what's happening?
Keep scrolling. I guess I lost that card.
Take a break.
Yeah. But yeah, I started off just like, buying, like if I had the money in my account, then I'd buy it and I'd pay it off. Like the next day I'd pay it off. It wasn't until later years like that I started, like now that I have, this camera equipment and stuff, I'd buy stuff that I don't have the money for yet, but I was like, I will. I will have that money.
Well, I was just gonna say too, save, but also invest. So that I'm a person of investment. Invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. Don't put yourself in a hole. But entrepreneurship. The word risk. You got to jump. You got to jump sometimes. You got to get that $2,000 camera at 18 years old that you're like, I do not know how I'm going to pay this back, but I know that I'm going to get really good at this, and I'm going to start charging $500 a music video, and that price is going to go up to $2,000, and I'm going to pay this off in a year or 2 years, and from there, it's all money. So save, young folks. Definitely save, but if you feeling it, invest in yourself. Like, really invest in yourself, because you can't take the money with you. You know what I mean? So like, don't go through life never trying, never taking a risk, never investing in yourself and doing something, because you could always find a way, man, to kind of build back up that money, build back up that account, build back up that credit. So I always tell young people, definitely. Take the leap. Think about it, have a strategic plan, and take that leap. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, I would just say too, just to add on that, when it comes to money and investing, and like you said, Matthew, like investing in yourself is real. But listen, I can't own a Canada Goose, or maybe I could, but I don't want to, right? That's the need versus the want. But guess what? I'm going to put like $100 in that Canada Goose stock, right? And I can own me some shares and say I have shares in Canada Goose, or Nike, Apple, all these hot things, or new things that are up and coming, right? Like, how can I invest in, I don't know, China, things that are going in around technology and different things like that. When the pandemic hit, what if you didn't put in on Tesla? Tesla went crazy during the pandemic if you didn't start early. I missed it. I'm so mad. But anywho, there were a lot of other things. Zoom. went crazy during that time. And so it was really about thinking, where can I put my dollars? If I have an extra $200, $300, how can I spread it across a few things, but let it sit? Right? You have to think about those dollars as something I can let sit for a number of years and watch it grow. And yeah, Zoom zoomed, okay? And Apple and all those things did as well. So investing, yes, in yourself, and then looking at some of those stocks of things you cannot afford, but maybe you can say, I have part ownership in some of those things. Bragging rights are real.
Yeah, that's some good advice. That's Warren Buffett does value-based investment, and so when I got in the stock market, I sold my Tesla stock way
Me too.
way too early, and I was like, this is
Are they back up?
oh my god. Well, I bought it when it was $20 a share. And I sold it when I made like, a few thousand. I was like, oh, great. And then I bought a stereo system. I love that stereo system. But I
Tesla was
I
still
did the
going up?
calculations. I missed out on $120,000. Yeah. I'm like, wow, well, that's great. But I keep investing in myself. So hopefully
That's
I'll make
That's it, man.
120 million.
Yes,
Yep,
yes.
that's it, exactly.
This went downhill really fast.
When you're talking about money, it's where you can
we're
go.
showing the realities of it. There's ups and downs, there's
Yes.
risks, there's good, there's bad, but we're all still here smiling. You see all
Yes.
of our teeth. So, we figured it out.
Yeah. So there you have it. Invest and when I first started investing, I invested in stuff I liked. So I was like, well, I like GE. I'm gonna buy GE. I buy Best Buy stuff. I'm gonna buy Best Buy. I buy, I have an Apple. I'm gonna buy Apple stock. So like, it's definitely a great example of like how to invest properly. Is like, think about the things you like, and don't just buy their products. Buy their stocks, because then you're making money. You're going to be buying more stuff from them, so you might as well get something back. So that's definitely a good way to go. And if you're ever like, hey, I just made some good money, I should sell this stock and buy a really expensive stereo system. Don't do that. Just don't do it. Keep the stereo system you got. You'd be all right.
Needs versus wants, people.
Needs versus
Needs
wants.
versus
The
wants,
music
right?
sounds
Yeah,
the
but
same.
I
The
know,
music
but
sounds the same.
I gotta keep going back, man. I'm an advocate for buying that stereo system, man. You deserve that stereo system. So
I don't know if you needed to
again.
close the stock out to do it. Maybe there would have been another way that you could have made that happen, so you didn't.
But I think the stock is pretty good because you kind of essentially made that money for free. You know what I mean? So what not better to pay for something that your money, you made your money work for you and you got something.
Fair to
So
say.
just I'm just a person about
He's affirming that your transaction
taking the
was
lead.
okay.
Listen, I'm all for it. You gotta enjoy life. You gotta enjoy life.
But I think we all agree we're not going to take Ayesha shopping with us. She's going to be fun. It won't be fun
Hold
to
on
shop
a
with.
second.
No, she's the only
She's
one that's
not
talking
learned.
about needs
Listen.
versus.
I learned the hard way, y'all.
Yeah,
So
amen.
I started at the bottom. Now I'm here. So I can only teach you a few things from my experience.
So, talking about investing in yourself and the entrepreneurial pursuit, I'm curious from each of you about how you use, because like there's transferable skills in entrepreneurship where it's about going out and taking what you're passionate about and figuring out how to seek out the resources that you need to get to where you want to be and to market yourself, sell yourself, and self-discipline. And so I'm curious, like, what aspects, like how do you push yourself forward? How did you take what you're passionate about and turn it into a career? And what advice do you have for people to do that too?
Corey, I think that's for you.
Oh my goodness. Oh wait, okay. So let me tell my story. So for me in particular, the type of work that I do, and when I started it 15 years ago in Boston, there wasn't a lot of people, I didn't have mentorship. So there was only a lot of people who would put out their hand and let me come with them. So I actually moved out of state to be in a space that I could get more opportunities. because I'm a big advocate for that, because I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew that I had to put myself in that place to get to that space. And so that's why I keep talking about putting yourself in those spaces to get to those things, because that really, really mattered to me. And I just recognized earlier on that I wasn't going to get it where I was. And so I had to go and get it, because that was, I wanted it. And it's been a long journey, but I wouldn't have changed it, because now I'm living, I'm like, you know, when you take a moment to say, wow, this is what I was talking about. I get to wake up how I want to wake up. There's a lot of stressful parts of it. It's not cookies and cream. It's because you have to work. You have to work. There's ups, there's downs, because you're dealing with a lot of things. But I would always tell people that for me personally, I've always wanted to live my own life. I don't believe in work-life balance. I wanted the work that I do to be incorporated with how I lived my life. And so the things that I do, it's joyful. It's joyful because I'm doing something that I've always wanted to do, and it's a part of my life. So people around me who know me call me for anything that has to do with what I love to do. If it's a birthday party, if it's a gathering, if it's something larger, they know that they can call me, because I live it, I breathe it, I feel it. And it's because I put myself in those spaces, and it's because that's what I wanted to do. So if you have something that you want to do, it's not going to be easy. I'm not going to sit here and be like, it's easy, but it's worth it. It's going to take time. Where I am now, sitting here, thinking about the young Cori, the little Cori who's inside of me, who wanted to do this, like, wow, it feels good after this. And I'm like, it feels good to be able to talk to people and to share that you can do it. I would always tell people that whenever I got into a certain space that I can talk about my story, I wouldn't sugarcoat it and saying it was easy the whole time, because it wasn't. But every step that I take, it feels better. It feels good, because I'd rather be doing this than not doing this. So yeah.
Do you have like a set like work schedule, or is it more fluid? Is it like, anytime, any place you get a call, and it's like, the bat signal, you're like, I'm going.
It's very fluid, and I've never been somebody I'm structured because of the work that I do. But when it came to my life, I wanted to wake up how I wanted to wake up. I wanted to be able to go where I wanted to go, and that's because that's what I wanted to do. And so it's fluid. It's not structured. It's not corporate structured. I couldn't be in that space. I don't want to wake up and be somewhere at 9 o'clock. I don't want to do that. So a lot of my hours they range. When I worked with companies in London, I had to be up at 5 a.m. to take those meetings, or or it's late at night and I have to break down an event, and I'm there till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. So it ranges, but I love it. That's for me. So everyone here has different schedules, but for me, my schedule is all over the place. But I went to New York on Tuesday for the day for a site visit, and I came back here, and I'm here for this panel. So that's the life I chose. And so it's easy for me to just accept it and take it in. But it's all over the place. Working 3-4 different projects with different people throughout the states, you find that balance. You because of all the years that I've practiced to get to that, I know how to organize dealing with all of these time zones. And so,
How do you decompress?
How do I decompress? The good thing is my job is great. I decompress by, I like to read. I love adventure. I love folklore. I love to read. I love to eat. So if I have a free time, where are we gonna go eat? And I decompress by taking break. Actually, travel in between. If I know there's a downtime, I'm going somewhere because I saved, because because I invested in that and thought ahead. So because of the work that I do, I'll plan something out 6-7 months out, so I'm prepared for that. So I decompress by honestly being with family and friends, because they bring the best out of me, and that's what keeps me to where I am, because of my family and friends. I have a great support system. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I would love to piggyback off that, because I'm happy that is working for you, Miss Cori-Lucy, because I'm actually in process of detangling that fluidity of entrepreneurship, because I'm realizing that it doesn't work well for me, and I think that I want to echo and scream. It ain't easy. It ain't easy, y'all. So this ain't, I'm gonna think of something and it's gonna pop off and I'm gonna be in the Drake Nikes by tomorrow. It's not like that. But the great thing is it could be, right? Like overnight success and all these things. And those are people that took the leap. So as I mentioned, I'm such a big advocate of taking the leap. I'm such a big advocate of entrepreneurship and passion finding because I just believe, find what you're passionate about. And I'll preface by, you know, although I'm an entrepreneur and I advocate for entrepreneurship, working for someone is not bad. Is not a bad thing at all. It's great. And if you're passionate about it and it works, then go for that. What I will say, going back to the point I made about detangling, is as an entrepreneur, your schedule is very fluid or could be very fluid, and you are always on. Um, that can really get the best of you a lot, where you just no longer have boundaries of when you need to shut off and not take a call, or what time you need to go to sleep. Or for me as a parent, just missing a lot of times with my son because I need to work, or I think I need to work, or I'm not putting people in place to do the work. There's levels to that. So I think above all, for all the young folks that are kind of tapped in right now and thinking about entrepreneurship, take the opportunity to submerge yourself into that field, into that industry. Do as much as you can, whether it's, man, just volunteering for free. If you could get some money out of it, great. But find somebody. And that's, again, going back to the internet, the great thing about the internet, right, is that you could reach out to anybody. You could find anybody that's doing anything. Get on LinkedIn, y'all, LinkedIn. Yes. LinkedIn, you could really start, searching photographers, creative directors, event producers, CEOs, and kind of pinpoint the folks that you want to speak to. But seek that experience first, and really kind of get a little bit of an understanding about what that life looks like. And once you feel like you're feeling good and you're ready to do this, you did the strategic plan and you spoke to, you got some folks in your corner, mentors, definitely super important to just have some folks supporting you.
And don't feel discouraged when you're reaching out and people don't respond, because
Yes.
somebody eventually will.
Yep.
Do not get
Yep.
discouraged.
And if you got to do it yourself, and if you got to do it, then do it. But definitely reach out, because that's important. And I think that's a big thing to take away from this, is like really reach out, because there's so much resource out there. But once you really find like you got to that point, I definitely encourage you to do your best to just set aside some time. Set aside some time, and because it's a grind, y'all. It's not 40 hours. Might not be 50, it might be 60 hours a week that you are grinding. You are taking calls at 5 a.m. You are out, you know what I mean? So this is real. So, prioritizing your wellness and your well-being and your family and those things as an entrepreneur, I think are super, super important. They're super important for everyone. But as an entrepreneur, when it's all on you, it's also all on you to make sure that you're carving out some times to just take care of yourself and decompress. So it's a beautiful, beautiful journey. To Cori-Lucy's point, I wouldn't choose anything else. I got a 2-hour, I was just talking to my wife about my morning routine. I got a 2-hour morning routine. You know what I mean? And yeah, I could maybe, if I work for somebody, I can get up earlier and do that. But I am so grateful that I have set myself up to a life that I can have a 2-hour morning routine before I get going for my day, when a lot of my colleagues and folks, they've been in work, they ain't stretched, they ain't, and it's just, it's a whole thing. So just, I think the overarching piece here for me when I think about entrepreneurship is just wellness of the mind, body, and soul, because that's when that machine is really going to be working, man, and you're going to see a lot of wonderful things come out.
Pouring into yourself so you can pour into what you're doing.
Exactly.
Is 100%
spot
key.
on.
Yeah.
Awesome. And how did you find, and I wonder, did you have any points where you're like, man, this is too much. I have no boundaries. I'm working all the time. I'm gonna dial it back. And then you like look at the gauge and you're like, ah, I dialed it back way too much. I got to bring it back up. Like, how did you figure out, like, were there points where you're just like burning out and you just like were like, turn it off, and then you're like, oh, yeah, actually, I need to turn this back on. Like, were there times like that? And if so, like, how did you figure out like the right balance of everything?
Definitely. You know, I've had as many entrepreneurs. I've had some very successful endeavors, and I've had some ones that have failed in a sense. And one of the biggest ones that has failed was a brick and mortar art gallery that I had opened up, and that took everything out of me. And it got to a point, I mean, like crash, right? Like crash, because I was just working so hard, and it dialed all the way back to the point where, like, you know, things were beginning to fail because I was in failure mode, you know what I mean? So that was such a lesson for me that I should have reached out sooner. I should have done some more regular check-ins, which is something that I'm kind of implementing now, currently in my life, of just kind of more regular check-ins to see how I'm doing and what I can contribute. And furthermore, the power of saying no. Oh my God, man! Like, especially as an entrepreneur, but I mean, anybody could relate to this. Like, overwhelmed and anxiety, just say a few no's, and those things are gonna start to melt a little bit, because you're just gonna have some more time to reflect and kind of put, you know, some practices in place to kind of boost yourself back up. So it is inevitable that you're going to hit those lows, whether you're an entrepreneur or not. You know what I mean? It's inevitable. So it's, for me, it's all about that preparation prior. You know what I mean? That what I'm doing prior, my morning routine, the stretching, the time with my son, the taking Sundays off diligently, no matter what's going on. You know, spending time, making sure I'm every Thursday going to have dinner with my mom. You know, so like these very like things, these discipline pieces that I put before the crash have helped me to prevent, or furthermore kind of prepare and take on that crash if it so comes. So yeah, and I think, you know, to conclude, going back to that point when I was mentioning that I hit that crash, just reaching out, man, reaching out to my support system, and I'm really grateful to have a support system that helped me, you know, get back on my feet. And again, being empowered, being around empowered people helped me to be back, become empowered again. So that was really important for me.
Awesome. I like that. Yeah. So it sounds like, you know, finding the rituals that will that'll help you. It's that preventative care.
Prevention is better than cure.
Yep. Amen. Say that again.
Absolutely.
Prevention is better than cure.
Absolutely. So I would like to ask Ayesha a question. Do you prefer Councillor Ayesha Williams? Do you prefer Councillor Williams?
This is y'all family.
Hey,
Like,
Come on, Councillor. Say, come on now. Counselor.
Say it.
Yes,
Counselor
Counselor
Wilson.
Ayesha, for all the young folks tuned in right now. Yeah, let's go.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank
I accidentally
you.
said Williams, and by the way, it's not the first time. For some reason, Wilson keeps translating to Williams, and I don't know why. My brain just likes, I feel like, I don't know, Williams.
Brother, I will read something. I will look at a piece of paper and make up my own name. And my wife be like, yo, Matt, that does not, that there's no R even in that. Like,
Well, had I had my father's last name, he is actually a Williams.
Oh my
And so it's
God.
really interesting because a lot of people do
Jonathan.
this to me often. But yes, Wilson. I
So-
still would have been at the end of the alphabet, at the end of the line,
yeah,
all
me
that
too.
good
Me
stuff,
too. I got W
regardless.
last
But
name.
yeah.
All right. So, Councillor Wilson. All right. Now every time I say Wilson, I think I'm saying it wrong, and I also think about Wilson from Castaway. Have you seen Castaway?
The volleyball?
The volleyball.
Volleyball.
That's the image. I'm a very visual person, So when I say things, visuals come into my face. And also
Think of Dennis the Menace, Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, that's what I was
Oh,
thinking.
yeah, yeah.
Dennis the Menace.
Yeah.
I
Well-
got that a lot as a kid.
Well, Councillor Wilson. I'm curious about I wonder, if people out there have the same curiosity about how does the whole local political system work? Like, how do you work with the other like city councils and like stuff like how does how does Cambridge City Council like work with the other Greater Boston area city councils to coordinate to make a citywide like a greater citywide like
Regional kind of thing.
yes.
Well, I would say that we need to do a better job. That's for sure. A lot of it is your network. And so, I was just on a panel a couple of weeks ago with Ruthie's from Councillor President in Boston. Shows she's now a friend of mine and in our network, and Julie Mejia, Councilor Mejia in Boston. So I have some networks of people within other districts, but you really just have to reach out and find like some common interests, things that you all are maybe working on, and how can you partner together. There needs to be more of like those regional issues. Like we have things around housing, affordable housing being a huge crisis, not only here in Cambridge, but definitely in Boston, but it's happening in Somerville and in other neighboring districts. But how do we come together and talk about like, how are we addressing these issues? Are there ways that we can pool our best practices together so that we can help to, build a stronger network of systems around housing or whatever? When we think about our unhoused community or, substance use and abuse in our community, the opioid crisis, things that happen when Mayor Wu says we're doing a shutdown of mass and cast, like where do those people then go? Well, many of them hop on the #1 bus and they end up in Cambridge, right? And so what does that then mean or look like for our city? If we don't really get the heads up and if we're not talking to each other, then we may not know these things. And then we just kind of have to deal with it as it arises. So I will say that we need to do a better job, but there are some individuals that I am nicely connected with. And I'm able to say, hey, what are you doing over there? Or what is some policy language? Oh, you all passed this order. How is that working for you all? Maybe this is something I want to consider, that type of thing. So it's not really intentional, and it's definitely some work that I want to continue to work on.
Awesome. Good to know. All right. So we have a few minutes left.
Is it okay to tap in on that passionate question
Oh,
that you
absolutely.
asked earlier?
Absolutely. So I'm curious from both you and Stephen, like how you guys, how you took what you're passionate about and it got to where you are.
You want to jump on that? All right, I appreciate it. I really loved hearing what Cori-Lucy said and what Matthew said about their passions and their drives. And, for me, it really started with youth development. It really started with wanting to make a change and a difference in a young person's life, to just be the best adult or young adult that they can be. And from there, I was working in the high school. I've been doing social work. I have my master's in social work, and when I thought about this real job, like what am I going to do after I graduate? And when I got my job at the Housing Authority, they had a youth program called the Workforce, and that's a program that I participated in as a kid. And I saw my world kind of come full circle real quickly, right? This is a program that I was in when I was a young person. I'm now in the high school. The high school that I graduated from is where my office sits. I'm able to see and impact and support young people each and every day. But from being in those hallways, I was able to see a lot of injustices and really think about, oh my God, our young people are not necessarily having, and not that they have to have the same experience I did back in high school, but it just looks so different today. And I think we talked about this a lot earlier about just the difference of today's society of young people. But with those injustices, I was like, there has to be some policies that can be made to help create systemic change, to help empower these young people to be great. So if we're looking at these numbers of these gaps, 30% of Black children can't read by third grade, or 30%, excuse me, are reading by third grade, that means 70% are not. Like, so what are we doing to help impact change to make sure that we're doing right by our young people? And so it kind of turned me into looking at politics. It kind of turned me into looking at the school committee and seeing, like, how can I be a voice for good in our community? I think back to the late Congressman John Lewis and, the good trouble, right? Like, so how can I get into some good trouble in here and create change? And when I first ran for office in 2019, I never thought well, maybe I thought I was going to win.
Let's
because-
go. Yeah, yeah,
Let me
absolutely.
tap that. Like, I thought I was going to win. You don't seek an opportunity if you don't think you can win, right? And that's my shout out for young people. If you're passionate about something, go for it, do it. Even if you lose, that's a learning lesson in there. And you figure out how you can bounce back and do it again. And so, I think about those opportunities. I think about when I ran, tapping young people into like my street team and making sure that they were tuned in and understanding a little bit more about politics and how to even talk to civic leaders and what does that actually mean and look like. But again, for me, it's always about bringing young people into the fold. I'm not going to do a thing without young people um, having some voice into that or just being a part of the process with me. And so, those are the things that I'm really passionate about, is really seeing what are the needs for our young people, creating those spaces for them, and then, going back to my big sister in service, Ayanna Presley, those closest to the pain being closest to the power. And so seeing myself as a leader now and honing in on that, but also bringing young people along into the conversation, into the fold. And then I think you also asked about like self-care. Like, what is that, the thing that you do? And for me, yeah, I'm a mother to a 20-month-old. So my self-care is important. I'm going to keep it real. It is very, very important. So yesterday, when I was like, I'm going to come into City Hall late. And not that I have a call, like I don't have to be there at a certain time, but I knew I had a 1 o'clock, right, Jake? I had a 1 o'clock, and I was like, I'll get there when I do. And I got there before 1. But the point is, I needed to get a facial. I just needed to sit, relax, get a facial. And that's what I was able to do yesterday. And it felt so good. So whenever you can just like take time to take care of yourself, do something that is just for you in a moment. If that means just making a phone call and say, I want to get my nails done, or I need to get my hair done, or I want to get that massage, or I just want to walk around the block, right? Or I want to get that Frappuccino from Starbucks because I'm just craving. Do what's going to make you feel happy, and do what's going to make you satisfied. And sometimes it's that instant gratification that makes you really feel happy, and that's okay. And then kind of just continue to brush yourself off and do what you got to do and get busy with work. So I just wanted to name that because some of our, especially for young people, when they fail, they think it's the end of the world. And I just want to say, you're going to fail. We all have failed. Maybe more than once, right? And so you're going to be in those spaces. It's about what are the lessons that you learn, how do you dust yourself off, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, as they say, and get busy again. So don't ever give up. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will say that even though I work for a bank, I am somewhat of an entrepreneur because I am identified as a self-sourcing loan officer, which means it's up to me to go out and get my own business. So when I worked for the bank, a bank, and for Wainwright Bank in the operations department, and then Eastern Bank bought us, and Eastern Bank come along and said, we don't have any operations positions for you, so you can either be laid off or you can try to be a loan officer and originate loans. So I said, all right, I'll try to originate loans. So my first year, I could not get any loans, and I was put on a probation for not being able to generate enough business. So fast forward 15 years later, I'm the top producer for the bank year over year over year. So I would say there's no one that has any level of success that I don't think that hasn't had either taken a risk or has not failed somehow, and has not had some kind of luck go their way. So anyone that's successful most likely has taken some risks and also has had some luck go on their side, and also is hardworking. And I think those are like three components. And even if you did fail, it doesn't mean that you did something wrong. It just means somehow, for some reason, the stars weren't aligned, and it doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. It just means that they weren't aligned. So I would just say to stay confident in yourself, always stay confident in yourself, and just always just keep on persevering and knowing that you can always do anything you want.
You learn a lot about yourself when you do fail as well, because it will show you what you're built for and what you're ready for. So if you're able to pick yourself back up after those failures, it shows that you might got what it takes to go the long haul. So if you fall and you stay in that space, maybe reevaluate what it is that you can actually take in. But that failure part is, I don't say it's like failing is like another lesson, another thing to tap on to becoming the better version of who you want to be. And you're only going to know that through those ups and downs. So, yeah.
And peace of mind is priceless, meaning whatever you do with your career, always do it with integrity, so you never have regrets.
Amen.
Yes.
That's my word of
Integrity.
2024 is integrity.
Yes.
Love that word, and also perseverance, young folks. That was my word when I was in schools, man. I was perseverance. How do you show up in adversity? How are you going to persevere through that? That's really special. It's a powerful trait.
Awesome. So we've gotten through all the topics. We're at the 5 o'clock mark, and we're going to have to start shifting things around soon. But there is one more topic that I'm wondering if you guys want to touch upon, because we talked about this, about conflict resolution, and how right now the way our society functions is not very peaceful. And if you go on Facebook, you see through the messages, a lot of fighting, a lot of arguing, and it sounds like the youth are experiencing this in their schools too. Like it resorts to fist fights and to yelling rather than having a discussion. So do you guys have any thoughts on like ways that people could have how the youth could have positive conflict resolution, how to have conversations rather than fights?
That's tough because it starts from at home. I feel like a lot of youth who are developing who they are and who they're becoming learn about conflict mediation at home. So if people are yelling or if people are quiet when they don't want to talk about stuff, that's how they then communicate in that way. And so it's that part is really, really tough. And then I can only speak for myself. I knew one of the traits that I developed was if something was going on and I would sink in. I wouldn't talk about it. I wouldn't communicate. I wouldn't express, which isn't good for anyone around me. And then my support system came in. They were like, "You can't do that. You might do that at home, but here you can't. You have to open your mouth. You have to talk." So again, I was lucky enough that people around me cared about me enough to want to still be my friend, to tell me that's not okay. And so how can youth, young people figure out how to communicate? It's hard at home. I think you have to figure out if you like how you communicate or not, or somebody brings it out to you. Other than that, it's either you figure it out yourself or you learn it. So that's like a really hard thing to like really tap into, of how they can, because a lot of young people and some people are just desensitized to what's going on. And so it's all reaction because the community around them is acting that way and they're all following the same thing. That's
Yeah, I was gonna say, young folks, like, help each other, man. Like, manage each other. And what do I mean by that? If you're walking with your friends and somebody says something inappropriate, call it out. Call it out. Call it out. Say something. And you don't have to say it, try to be with grace, have grace always, right? Because we're all gonna make some mistakes, and approach it with love and intention, but what I see so much working with young folks is like when they're able to regulate or manage between themselves, I see so much greater impact and growth in them versus two people coming to me, sitting with Mr. W. We have the conversation, and we have a great conversation. And I'm, as an adult, and I'm able to share some additional points. But I'm really, I'm really an advocate for young folks just to really just hold each other accountable, man. Be accountable to each other. That's your friend. You said this is my friend. These are people I care about. So if you care about somebody, hold them accountable. Hold them to the highest standard as they should do for yourself. And it's not easy. It's not easy. And sometimes it is just well worth it and more impactful to reach out and get an adult involved. But I really just think care for your friends, man. Care for them, really, and care for them in a sense where you want them to be, their best self and whatever that looks like. So hold them accountable and just approach that with love. So that's just like a really big piece that I wanted to share about conflict resolution and empower them, man. All them young folks in my drop-in group, they're still making in front of each other and all that stuff, and y'all are friends, and it's all cool. It's all cool until it's not. You know what I mean? So instead of even going down that road, how can you flip the script? And next time you see your friend, instead of saying, "Man, you're big head again," like, "Yo, nice haircut, brother. Like, I see that new haircut you got. Man, will that go a long way? Man, will that go a long way?" And that big head comment that you made 10 times in that month, man, you never know what you're doing to that person. You know what I mean? So again, man, just show up. Show up with love. Show up with integrity, right? Show up with integrity. Like really be about who you say you want to be in your heart, the meditations that you have in your heart with God. Bring that forth. Bring that forth and bring that forth in others. So that's really important.
If you think you're a leader, to tap into that, if you think you're a leader, then you have to operate in that way.
Amen.
If you're in a group, and it's hard to be that one person to say something different than somebody else, but if you know your leader, do lead. You don't have to always have to follow. Maybe you are that person that speaks up in a different way. Be that person. If they, we need those people.
With the workforce program, we do this activity with 8th graders, and we call it the Shield of Honor. And the Shield of Honor, it has 4 quadrants and values, and we talk a lot about values, and we kind of use like play Monopoly money, and we kind of talk, whether you want a healthy relationships, whether you value family and love life, and being attractive to people or material things, whatever. Like kids could bid on those different values, and we do some fun stuff there. But when they're working on their Shield of Honor, they come up with their 5 values. They talk about 3 to 5 ways that they would avoid conflict or intervene if conflict was kind of around them with their friends or whatever. They talk about leadership skills, and we do all these great activities around that. And the last thing is just goal setting. What's in the center there is what we call the identity symbol, and that's really them identifying with something, whether it's some of them come from Ethiopia or Eritrea, and they might put their flag there. Some of them are like all hooked in on basketball, so they might put a basketball there. Whatever is their identity symbol. But when we talk about conflict resolution, not only the activities that we do, but the people that we speak about, like who might be around you that causes conflict? Where is conflict? And how might you intervene? Because conflict, for the most part, is everywhere. Again, we talked about it's at our fingertips. We can open our phones and there's, the news, there's some conflict going on. There's, our friends, there might have just been a fight in the high school or at school and something's going on, or people are in disagreements. There's always conflict. But guess what? It's probably not going to go away. So how do you manage yourself in those spaces? Well, you really have to dive on, is this something worthy for you to be a part of? And really start there. Like if it's something that you don't necessarily need to be a part of, figure out how to not be a part of it. Because
echo that.
because sometimes just being in the space, you're guilty by association. And this is where I say I've been victim of that, And so I think that is just a real thing to say, figure out how you can just avoid conflict all in together. But if and when conflict does arise and you are in those spaces, you got to first think about your safety. Are you safe? Do you need to call on somebody who's your trusting adult person that you can call on? is there a way that you could mediate a situation right then and there, right? How can you say, hey, friends, there's no need to fight. Like, what are we actually, hold on, we're arguing about some boy, some girl? Like, what's going on here? Is it really that serious? Or somebody took a post out of context, right? And now all of a sudden we're having this big disagreement. So figure out where your leadership skills are in the whole piece and how you can really exercise your leadership skills to shine through. And hopefully that will help to avoid or reduce the conflict. But I will also say that it's not an easy process, and you have to really think about, again, who are your trusted adults that you can go to if maybe you feel as though you don't have all the answers, right? Because there are some people, hopefully, in your network. And lastly, what I will say, please try your best not to be the one that's standing there recording the situation. That is probably the most heartbreaking. There was just a fight at our high school amongst some students just the other day, and it was heartbreaking that when I got up to the school, and mind you, I don't work there anymore, but I was there doing some community service stuff, that a young person shared it with me. And I almost just went into tears because, one, a young person went to the hospital, right? And so now this is going to become a bigger issue for the aggressors, for their whole life. But two, the students that are around that witness it, and what then impacts them. What is the traumatic experience that then they feel, and how do they go home, or how now are they going to be engaged and active in the community based on that situation? And so as a leader, as a city councilor, I even spoke to my mayor the other day and I said, listen, Mayor, we got to get these young ladies together because it's the girls that are fighting more than the boys, and we got to do something. So how can we get our young ladies together? And first I want to just do like high tea. I want to bring us back to England and like do some kind of tea time thing. But I really just want to say, all of this, we have to figure out better ways to deal with our anger, because as soon as they fight and somebody gets hurt or whatever the case is, you're going to turn around and say, I wish I didn't do that, right? I wish I, woulda, coulda, shoulda. And all of a sudden you can't. If a person now has gone to the hospital, you could be now charged with assault and battery. You could be, and a lot can unravel in a very bad way for you. So it's really thinking about, what can you do? How can the adults around you support that? And that's my goal and my mission, is really bringing our young people together to say, let's have those conversations now to talk about what do we do in case things happen, because disagreements do and will come up. But what are the actions I can take to make sure that the outcome is not horrible or traumatic for those around me? And that's the leadership skills that I want all young people to take away. It's just, how can I be a leader in this moment?
My advice would be, when you're communicating with anybody, anywhere in your daily walk of life, just be mindful that anyone that you're coming across, you have no idea what they're fighting inside. They could have a family member that's fighting cancer. They could be struggling with how to get a passing grade that they really, really need to get to their next step. They could be trying to figure out how the family's going to pay rent that month. So you never ever know what someone is dealing with, and just be open-minded to that you just have no idea what they're dealing with. And I can guarantee you, everyone you're walking in coming into in contact, everybody's got some struggle that they're dealing with. So just try to be mindful of that, and have a little bit more of a compassion with your communications with people, being mindful that we're all fighting our own fights somehow on some level. And some of it's tougher than others, but we're all struggling somehow, and just be mindful of that.
Amen.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for being here, having this conversation. We covered a lot of amazing topics, and I think that for those watching online, and watching this afterwards, I think they're going to have a lot of value to be pulled from this. So, so thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you for
you so
having
much,
us.
brother.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any closing remarks that you guys want to make to the audience?
Compassion, perseverance, and grace. Those are the words. And word to my brother Steve right next to me, man. He's really spent some knowledge tonight.
I would just say, just don't be shy about reaching out. If you're somebody that you respect, don't be shy about reaching out for guidance. I think pretty much anybody would love to be able to offer support and any kind of mentorship to anybody that wants it.
Absolutely.
And if you reach out and ask for it, I guarantee it's going to be there for you, and I guarantee it could be something that could benefit you the rest of your life.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. I'll say just be authentic to yourself and be real to yourself and to others, but also be graceful.
All right, there you have it. So I would say just, be the change you want to see and get out there and do it. We can create the future that we want. You just got to take action. If enough people get it together that believe we can have a better future, we will have a better future. That's how it works. You go out and you're just like, oh man, I'm hungry, I want food. And then you go out and make food, you're not hungry anymore because you just made yourself not hungry. So we can do that. Just it's a little more complicated with the whole world, but we can do that with our interpersonal relations and politics and land ownership and all the good stuff that we want to be good.
Together we are better.
Amen. Network, baby.
Peace. They say peace, love, and hair grease. Or peace, love, and soul. Is that what the soul train is?